Welcome to Spirit Talks, where we explore the unseen world, the wisdom of the ancients, and the spiritual journeys that shape our lives. This is the space where stories of transformation, healing, and divine connection come to life. Today, we have a very special guest, a truly special guest, someone whose work bridges the past, present, and future, guiding us through the sacred paths of wisdom and self discovery. And you'll find out more about her through her books, through her wisdom, and through her love and compassion. So get ready, on your marks, get set, go to embark on a profound journey with us as we welcome an extraordinary author, spiritual teacher, and channel of ancestral knowledge. And she's none other than our esteemed guest, Eliza White Buffalo. And let me
Thank,
introduce you
thank you,
all.
Sharat.
Uh, let me say a few words about Eliza White Buffalo. Eliza White Buffalo is author of the Two Roads trilogy, a deeply moving series inspired by the teachings of Nicholas Black Elk, the revered Lakota holy man. Through her writings and spiritual work, Eliza channels profound wisdom, heals millions of people, blending Native American spirituality with universal teachings of healing and transformation. Her work is more than storytelling. It's a call to awaken, to remember our true essence, and to walk the path of light with deep spiritual insights and a message of unity. Eliza is here to share her journey that she has guided her along the way. So let's welcome Eliza White Buffalo to our show, Spirit Talks. Welcome, Eliza. How are you doing today?
Thank you. Thank you very much. That was a beautiful introduction. And I thought, this man knows who I am. This person gets the work that I'm doing, because that was very well said, well summarized in a few words. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. So this is, my Spirit Talks. I mean, I always go into the journeys of the person as well. I mean, we'll start off on a lighter note. We'll break the ice, and then we'll go into the books and Black Elk Speaks and the Two Roads and much more. Uh, yeah. I mean, you deserve that introduction. You deserve a lot more, because the moment I started reading those lovely words of yours, Eliza, I was in tears. Actually, I was connecting to myself. I think it's not just your story or mine. I think it's a story of everybody, right? I think
That's true. It is.
I think we all have Rose and Lizzie in all of us, and
That's
and
right.
for tonight, you are my Rose.
It's true
So
that this is the story of every soul. And the books were written, the first book in particular, largely by my memories, but also through channeling Black Elk and the codes that he wanted to put within the book to allow each reader to realize and to feel that this is their story, and on a very deep level to open up their heart, and that's what book one is all about.
wonderful. So we'll go a little bit about into your journey. So tell me a little bit about your childhood before
Oh
I
gosh.
ask you the deeper questions. Where were you born? Actually, I mean, how was your childhood like?
Well,
Are you the
I was born and reared in Northern Ireland, and there was a lot of troubles. You've often heard of the troubles of Northern Ireland. So there was a lot of troubles in those days in the 60s. And so my family did have a lot of trouble. We moved from house to house. But something was very constant with me throughout all of that upheaval. There was this constancy of spirit and a man called Black Elk. And at first, because he first appeared to me as an infant, I grew not knowing that Black Elk was different than the people who were actually living. And Black Elk would tell me as well that in those days, my grandfather lived with us, my father's father lived with us, and he passed away when I was only 1 year old. But in those days, Black Elk would tell me I didn't know the difference sometimes between Black Elk and my grandfather because both of them looked very similar. Both wore the same suit, the same white shirt, the same tie, and both of them constantly read the Bible and smoked a pipe.
Yeah, I, I remember that pipe thing in the Black Elk in the beginning, right? Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And in
Wow.
those days, Black Elk always wore a black suit. He was always well dressed out in that way. It wasn't until I was about 9 years old that Black Elk started to wear his native attire.
Right. Very good. So in a way, so you call Black Elk your grandfather, and more than that, do you call him your ancestor?
I call him my beloved because we're twin flames. Um, he on a soul level, he is I and I am he. So he is my beloved, but I call him my spirit guide. I call him my spirit within. I call him my spirit within most recently because that's a very important part of my spiritual development to understand and to accept that he and I are one and that all time is one. So that on one level, yes, he lived from 1863 to 1950.
Mhm.
But and I'm living now since 1965. But on another level, time is all now, and all form is one. So that I am him now, here and now. And kind of when I had my what I call my spiritual awakening in this life when I was 36 years old, that was the biggest lesson that I had to understand at that time was that when I talk about Black Elk and when I read about Black Elk and when I respond to him with this familiarity, I really am reading about myself. I really am feeling into my own soul. Not Eliza. Eliza, actually, I pronounce it Eliza, but not Eliza or Eliza. Many people do. But the soul itself, that this is me. And in fact, when I first discovered, aged 36, 37 years old, that my Black Elk from my childhood actually was a real person at one time in history, that it wasn't just an imaginary friend, as my mother would have liked to put it. So at that time, that was one of the biggest revelations for me, very exciting. And then I began to read Black Elk Speaks because someone alerted me to the book.
What age
And
were you when you read the Black Elk Speaks?
oh, 36, 36, it's 24 years ago. So you can do
Okay.
the maths. Um, I was reading it and I was like, this book is about me. That's my vision. Those are my words. Those are my feelings and my dreams and my wisdom.
Correct, correct, correct. So,
And Black Cat would
on
say, my dear, I am you.
wonderful. So you take the stage. If you want to say anything to Black Elk right now, you can do it. If you want to address him, if you want to say "I love you" to him, go ahead.
Black Elk, he is Black Elk, you are my beloved, you are my everything, you are my savior. I owe everything to you and to myself. And we shall forever be united in love, forever be united in love. He will always come at the very top of the very pinnacle of my mountain of love, Black Elk.
My goodness, you're saying those words, and I'm getting the goosebumps here. I'm getting those
Yeah.
tinglings in my body, and I'm just soaring soaring
Well,
on cloud
Sharat,
number 9.
when we talk about the greatest love of all, and that's, that song, The Greatest Love of All, is it's the love within. That's the love that I have for Black Elk. It is, and it grows and grows and grows as I love myself more and more. When I was 36 years old and I began to remember Black Elk again, I did not love myself. I hated myself. I hated my life. I was miserable. I
Mhm.
wanted to die.
Mhm.
But Black Elk was there again, and the memories began to roll in, and the spiritual development began. And with that, and with Black Elk came this love that I felt when I was a child from him. And I began to give that love to me. So when I say I love Black Elk, he's on the very pinnacle of my mountain of love. That is me that I love. I love myself thus.
Wonderful. We'll come back to your
And
book.
that's a big achievement.
Absolutely. And you have integrated with him, like two souls became one, or two bodies became one, or like it. Yeah,
Yes,
as you rightly said, you both are twin flames. Absolutely.
quite a few times in our lives, in my life, Black Elk would say to me, now I'm going to fall back. Okay. So when Black Elk says to me, he's about to fall back, that means I have to take the front. It's my mind. It's Eliza. It's not Black Elk. So I have to take responsibility for the wisdom, the intuition, the knowledge, and all of this. And then he would say to me, now I want you to fall back and let me come forwards. And that's when my ego is put in its place and Black Elk comes forwards, and it's a learning curve in those times. That's when shifts happen in my soul, when he comes forward.
Wonderful.
So when
Wonderful.
he speaks now, or I speak to him, or I listen to him, it really is myself that I'm listening to.
Yeah, I got it. I
It's
mean, my father used to
myself.
tell me.
It's
I consider
all,
my dad my twin flame because he is no more. He passed away 2023 February 10th, and there are so many words which are unsaid. But when I was reading the two roads, uh, I was somewhere, connecting to my dad. Actually, I was actually connected to. You said Black Elk. He
oh,
is your
that's
grandfather.
wonderful.
I was actually connecting to my father, and somewhere, so many things, so many memories came to my mind, and as if he's speaking to me, and suddenly goosebumps started happening to me, basically. And if you
Yes,
remember, a couple of years back, I sent you a big note of of the kind of spiritual uh, uh, experiences I had, and you said that good for you. And yesterday again, I was going through, and I did that. And on that note, in the two roads, we'll come back to the book. We'll discuss at length about a lot of things about Rose and Lizzie and so many other things. I want you to tell the audience, show the book to our audience as well a little later. But there's a personal question. Can There are two questions. The next question I'll ask you, which is related to the name of my show. But the first question is, somewhere I was reading in the two roads that uh, I may not quote it verbatim, but I'm just going to tell you the essence of what it is. It meant that you can actually connect to those who have uh, uh, gone over the rainbow bridge or whatever, who have transitioned.
yes.
I struggle to connect on that level. I mean, what is your advice to everyone who is going through grief, who want to ascend to higher consciousness and connect to them the way you speak to Black Elk?
Yes. Yes. It's this is an issue that a lot of people have on their path of spiritual development, because
Mhm.
they believe that they have to learn. They believe that they have to become the seer, become the visionary, um, learn how to have clairvoyance, learn how to have clairaudience,
Hmm.
and learn how to connect with their soul. But the actual truth of that is there is nothing to learn, because all that is actually really needed is relaxation and self-acceptance. So when you're reading the two roads and your heart is opening,
Hmm.
you will have spiritual experiences. You will have these random experiences that you feel that before that you were always trying to have but couldn't have.
Hmm.
And I'll tell you right the science behind that is people believe that the psychic senses are different from the physical senses,
Right.
but they're not. Psychic senses work through the physical senses.
Hmm.
So, for example, whenever I hear Black Elk speak,
Hmm.
I'm hearing him with my auditory nerves, with my ears, and with using the auditory nerves, and the connection that they have of the brain, and how the brain puts a feedback back through the ears to actually produce sound. So this, when you are hearing intuitively, or seeing intuitively, or smelling, or tasting intuitively, or anything like that, sensing, feeling, this is all done through the physical senses and through the sensory nerves, all of the sensory nerves. And all that is actually necessary for that to take place is relaxation. You don't have to know, because you already know. You
Wow.
just
I
have
love
to
that.
relax. You
Hmm.
must relax. And that's why meditation is the perfect preamble to intuition
Hmm.
and receiving from spirit. Meditation is the best practice that you can have. Relaxation, just being able to physically switch off and not have to think, not having any need, not having any desires to hear, just perfectly relaxed, and it will happen.
Wonderful. Uh, the next part of the question I wanted to ask you was related to my show name, Spirit Talks. I think in the pandemic, the 2020 of July, I was speaking to my friend Anita Drain. She's also uh, a Feng Shui expert. I met her in 2019. And I was discussing some things. And
Mm-hmm.
then she said, name your show Spirit Talks because you want to do this. So she said that, I mean, this strikes me. And then I said,
It's
I
a
will
good
call it
name.
Spirit Talks. So I'm going to ask this to all my guests, but especially you, because in your, I think in the prologue that you wrote, it was signed by Spirit. So tell me who according to you is Spirit, who is and what is Spirit?
Spirit is the invisible essence of the self. It's not the mind.
Mm-hmm.
The mind is a tool. The mind, you could say, is the ego as well.
Mm-hmm.
But spirit is the invisible beginning of everything. So when I say that everything that exists was once existing only in spirit, only as spirit. So spirit is the air of, shamanically speaking, the air of a being.
Mm-hmm.
Spirit is the essence of that being's mind, the essence of who that being is, of their desires, of their energy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, spirit is also, when I talk about spirit, I'm also talking about all of the various minds, discarnate minds in spirit.
Mm-hmm.
So, when a person passes from the physical life, their their spirit continues, but you could also say their mind continues, their consciousness continues, is more to the point. So spirit is consciousness before it becomes something.
Understood.
And all of those discarnate minds in the spirit world that have passed away, they're all spiritual only. They're only spiritual. For example, my grandmother, both of them are in the spirit world. They talk to me, but they have no place. They're not any place, not any physical place at least. They are consciousness.
Mhm.
They are awareness that never dies.
Correct.
So their spirits, their mind energy never died.
Correct. Uh, so
And
it's a
and they're there with me because I remember them.
right. Uh, you, you just said that you connect to them. Do you think they can see us when we are in physical body? Do you think they know about us the way we are doing our? Are they aware of our day to day activities and our pains and pleasures and what we
Yeah.
think and how we go through life?
They can, of course they can. And there is, you see, this is the conundrum.
Right.
All consciousness plays out in realities of some form or other. Spirit is the most ethereal reality, the less body, so spirit is a sort of a nothingness,
Right.
and ether is something that's coming to be, and physical is
Mhm.
the solid world. So when we think about a reality where our loved ones are still are in spirit, and they can
Right.
see us and
Hmm.
hear us and
Hmm.
know us.
Hmm.
Um, and we're always that little bit aware, becoming aware of what we're doing and what we're thinking in case our grandmother hears us.
Correct. Right.
Um, we're really believing in a reality that is much less spiritual than actual spirit itself.
Right.
Spiritual reality, nothing. We believe in a reality where spirits exist in a place, can see us, can hear us, can know us, and communicate with us. And that is a reality. But that reality in itself is not the only reality.
Right.
There are so many realities. Black Elk would say there are as many realities as there are breaths that you've taken. And
Mm.
that's quite something. That
Right.
you cannot fathom that. You can't get your head around that. What he means is every moment of your life, how your spiritual energy was in that moment, that is somewhere in a reality somewhere.
Wonderful. Wonderful. We will.
And
We
the
will get.
realities that we believe in,
Mhm.
yes, it is. It's absolutely amazing. The realities that we actually know of and believe in and speak about
Mhm.
are only the realities that we give energy to. We
Wow.
give energy to those realities. We believe in them. We talk
Mhm.
about them. We make them the real realities. But there are so many realities that we never speak of because they're in our subconscious where we
Mhm.
don't remember. The realities that we do speak of are in our conscious mind. The realities we don't speak of are in our subconscious mind and our unconscious mind. So that's quite a lot of realities, quite a lot of spiritual worlds. Do you
Right.
know in the Bible it says, in my kingdom there are many rooms? I believe that's what it was talking about. In your
Right.
consciousness, there are many rooms,
Wow. So now, I mean, the way you're
many
traversing.
realities.
the Bible to the black elk and the way you're connecting the dots. I love that actually. I mean, that means,
Yes,
every religion, every spiritual practice, I think it has a missing piece, and we connect the dots. I guess whether it is Hinduism or whether it is Buddhism or Jainism,
yes, I believe
Christianity,
so
whether it is
too.
Black Elk or
Yeah,
the Native American
that's
spirituality
right.
as well. We'll
And you
talk
talk
about,
about what you know.
right.
You talk about what you know. So,
Correct, correct, correct.
I was a Catholic. I'm no longer a practicing Catholic, but I've read the Bible. Black Elk actually got me to read parts of the Bible to help me to understand what he was speaking of. He taught the Bible.
Right.
He was a Catholic when he was he converted to Catholicism when he was 39, but he
Mhm.
didn't convert 100%. He still practiced his traditional customs as well and beliefs as well. So
I
that's the
mean,
same as me. I talk about shamanism, but I also talk like a Christian.
you speak a lot of sense, and I mean, there's a lot to
Thank
discover
you.
in your books as well, and I'm going to read them again and again. A lot of nuggets to imbibe. I think it's only the tip of the iceberg. I feel that, I mean, there's so much energy in your books that I can't help talking about them. But before delving into those things a little bit more about Black Elk, your life, about your spiritual awakening, a little bit more about uh, your education, and who were you before that spiritual awakening happened to you. Uh, you said that you went through trauma and stuff. A little bit
Yes,
about that.
so so I was a lonely child that disappeared into cupboards and dark places and connected with Black Elk and was with him in that spiritual reality. Um, but when I was almost 13 years old,
Hmm.
Black Elk told me that he was going away, or it seemed like he was going away, and that I would forget about him and that I would go into the wilderness. I think I talk about that in book 3. And I would go into the wilderness and I would find white buffaloes in the wilderness who would bring me back to Black Elk.
Right.
So I guess those white buffaloes were symbols of hope, people of hope, people that were making sense to me, people that inspired me, people that awakened this my spiritual self. And when I was 13, I did have a huge trauma that just plummeted me into the darkness, into the wilderness, as Black Elk would say. And I did forget Black Elk. I did forget him. And I had suffered from mental health issues from 13 years old to maybe 36 years old. And for most of those early days, I spent time in psychiatric care um, because as a shaman, I was my mind was wide open, and people couldn't understand me. Why did I want to die?
Mhm.
Why was I speaking like that? They couldn't quite understand me and believed there was something wrong with me. But listen, Sharat, let me tell you, I've actually written a book about this. Psychiatric wards are absolutely crammed full of shamans
I love that. I love that.
because the world just did not understand them. Yes, it's true. It's
I think in the
true.
two roads you wrote that there is a
So
shaman in all of us.
there is, there absolutely is. Look, what we've got to remember is if I am a shaman and I explore the multidimensional realities within myself and out in the universe, then and I am you and you are I and everything is one. then this shaman, this energy, this consciousness is within everyone.
Mhm.
But if every single one of us here on earth were to experience and materialize or manifest the same soul energy as each other, it would be a very dull world and we
Right,
would never learn anything.
right, right, right. I mean,
So we're all different,
I,
and yet
I
we all have the same quality.
wonderful, wonderful. I mean, I feel that way before your awakening. I mean, I think, as you said, uh, uh, we have forgotten that we know, but we already know it. Something you said, something like that. That we don't
That's
know that we
right.
know. And way
Yeah.
before your
Black Elk used to say, Black Elk used to say, the spiritual world is the real world,
Mhm.
and the physical world is just a reflection of what is real, what is true. And that's true according to what the teaching that he wanted to teach at that time, that the physical world is like a reflection of spirit. It's like a manifestation of spirit, albeit it's a type of hologram where it's not really solid. It's just spiritual energy come together in density, and that's how we experience it. But
You know,
spirit world is the first world. So everything, I think I've said this before, everything that is solid, including this body, including, you know, this glass of water, everything that is solid first was only spiritual and eventually became solid. So, as a shaman, I can say we have four cardinal states within us, which is earth, air, fire, and water. And all of those together um, are born out of spirit, are born out of energy, are born out of, so maybe the spirit of enthusiasm is fire.
mhm,
Maybe the spirit of movement and flow is water.
mhm,
Maybe the spirit of safety and warmth is the earth. The spirit of ideas, inspiration is air. So everything is spiritual first and comes from the spiritual world and eventually becomes a physicality.
wonderful, wonderful,
So,
wonderful.
people talk recently during the lockdown, even before it. Let me first say this. Black Elk in 2012, it was about that time, Black Elk said to me, before the fifth dimension actually is felt, experienced on Earth, there will be a third world war. Now, all those years ago, that was quite something to predict. But now, it's not so fantastic. Um, a lot of people over this last previous years have been saying that it's a spiritual war. But that spiritual war between dark and light that people were talking about eventually becomes a physical war. It,
Right.
it manifests into something physical. So whether we have out and out war, world war in the world, or talks of world war, or war between certain countries, as what's happening now, um, that will that all depends on how far the collective can actually rise above the idea of war itself and move into the idea of peace.
Wonderful, wonderful. What a great message.
So
Uh,
that the spirit of the collective,
Amazing, amazing.
sorry,
Uh,
the spirit of the collective will determine whether we experience peace or war.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Eliza, again for your golden nuggets for this episode. Thank you so much. We'll bring you back next week. So, friends, that was Eliza White Buffalo uh, with her dripping wisdom. uh, about her spiritual awakening, her life story, her books, her perspectives about spirit and black elk and the revered Lakota holy man. And much, much more is going to come in our other episodes. So stay tuned to Spirit Talks. And this is your favorite host, Sharat Pasumarthy. Bye.